Hello and welcome to The Take. I'm your host, Chesley McNeil. Each weekday, we're looking at stories, making headlines, and bringing experts from our community to give their take. Here's a look back at some of the top takes from this week and how those in the know are seeing those stories that impact you. For more than 40 years, Calvary Refuge Center in Forest Park has been a lifeline for families with no place else to turn. Now crippling funding, cuts, and surging need has the facility on the verge of closing its doors and leaving dozens out on the street. Joining us today is Executive Director Keisha Zimmerman. Keisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. What goes through your mind when you think about the possibility of having to turn those families away for the first time in decades?
When I think about having to, being that we're the only shelter in the Clayton County area, we're located in Forest Park, and we service all surrounding counties such as Fulton County, DeKalb County, Henry County, as well as Clayton County. And it saddens me to think that after providing services to the unhoused community for so many years that we may have to close our doors. Where will those residents go? Where will they go? Mm-hmm. We're the only shelter in the Clayton County area that can serve the entire family. So where would they go? So that really saddens me. Talk to me quickly about how a night goes in your service to those families. First, what happens is they would call our crisis line to schedule a housing intake. Once they come in for intake, which is usually around 3 o'clock, we complete the intake. After the intake, we provide check-in from 5:30 until 6:15. At that time, we provide them with MARTA bus passes so that they're able to go out and search for jobs and housing and attend medical appointment and daycare appointments, schooling appointments the next day. Once they're in at 6:15, from 6:15 to 6:30, they have time to just get themselves ready for the next day. We serve dinner from 6:30 to 7 o'clock. During that dinner time, we have different churches, businesses, and organizations that come in and provide a ministry and a meal and encouragement so that they can carry that along for the next day. Once that is completed, then we complete case management, and then they have chores that they complete on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. Then at 9 o'clock, the lights are out. They prepare for bed from around 7:45 to 9 o'clock. To get ready for that next day, and then it starts all over again that next morning at 5:30. What steps have you taken so far to try to keep the doors open? What we've been doing is unlike in previous years, we would do a fall fundraiser, but this year we decided to step up our fundraising efforts. And so we started a new fundraiser this year, which is our summer fundraiser, and we're in hopes that we can encourage new donors as well as our older donors to come and support us. Also, we're going out into the community, talking to different businesses, organizations, churches, trying to increase our awareness in the community for that community support. We're reaching out for that community support, letting others know that we're in the community and that we've been in the community for over 40 years, and it would just be devastating if we have to discontinue our services to the community that we serve. Yeah, a loss like that would probably have a broader impact on the entire community. Talk to us briefly about that. Yes, it would, because I'm gonna give you some figures from last year. We served over 1,000 individuals last year. So can you imagine where would the individuals go? Where would these families go? Who would provide this housing, especially when there's an increase in the cost of housing? We provide 21 nights of free emergency shelter, and while they're there, we're providing them with all the tools to hopefully help them gain self-sufficiency by the end of our 21 nights. And if not, then we will refer them to other programs, other agencies. And if we're not there, then where will they go? Two questions for you. Got 30 seconds here real quick. What would you say to lawmakers right now if they were sitting before you to help out in this situation? And how can the community get involved in helping you out? Well, with the lawmakers, I would encourage them to have more grant opportunities or more funding sources for organizations like ours. We've seen a decrease in the number of grants and streams of revenue for organizations like ourselves. Now, in order to, if anyone would like to reach out to us, they can reach out to us via info@calvaryrefuge.org. They can visit our website at calvaryrefuge.org, and they can go to our donate page, where now we're raising donations to keep the doors open.
Saving for retirement just got a shakeup. Yep, from bigger 401k limits to automatic enrollment to brand new options like crypto and private equity. Earlier this month, President Trump signed an executive order aimed at expanding investment options. Now 401k plans are allowed to include private equity, real estate, cryptocurrency, in addition to traditional options. It also directs the Department of Labor to re-examine and clarify guidelines on fiduciary duties under the Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. And it seeks stronger protections to reduce lawsuits against plan sponsors offering these new assets. Let's dive into this thing with our financial expert and friend of the show, Andrew Pujols. Welcome back, my friend.
Good morning, Chesley.
All right. Why are these changes being made now? What's the problem that we're having to solve?
Well, we're in a new era where crypto is front and center with everything we do, especially for younger generation who loves to invest in crypto, fast returns, just the YOLO type of stuff that we're seeing out there in the market. But more so to create more avenues for people to invest, which basically will do well for some and leave others empty-handed at the end of the day if they're not careful as we proceed into this new era of investments.
Wow. So does it create new opportunities or more opportunities, or does it just have room for more mistakes for us to make?
Yeah, well, a little bit of both, right? It certainly creates new opportunities. There'll be these, once they set the regulations in place and administrators know what they can and can't have in the 401k plans, that'll determine what 401k money can invest in, as you mentioned, private equity, real estate, crypto. Crypto's the big one, of course. And so then we'll see where money can go into. There'll be ETFs, exchange traded funds, within these 401ks where it'll be a bag, say, of cryptocurrency, or a bag of private equity investments, or a bag of real estate, for example, and then folks will be able to invest in those. The concerning part is, as it should be, is that investing in crypto, we've seen the volatility already. It's only going to get worse the more money that flows into cryptocurrency and these alternative investments via 401ks, right? So you got to be prepared to, sort of have a higher risk tolerance if you're going to invest in these alternative investments with your retirement account.
Yeah. What are some of the more reliable options for your retirement?
I mean, look, if you're closer to retirement, let's just say you're in your 50s, 60s, or very close to retirement, I think obviously any financial advisor would advise that you stick with the more traditional path of stocks and bonds, right? Less volatility. Yes, the returns would be lower, but your money is safer as you get into retirement. If you're younger, if you're in your 20s, early 30s, and you have 20, 30, 40 years before retirement, and you're willing to take a chance and you have some higher tolerance for risk, then yeah, you're probably going to look at potentially investing a little bit of crypto, some real estate, for example, within your 401k. That can boost up your returns much faster in a shorter time frame. But you got to be very smart. Don't go all in, for example, like a lot of people do, thinking that they're just going to have some multiplier of 200-300% gains in a year, because those fast gains can come right back down just as fast.
Wow. So who benefits from it? Is these new changes? Is it the high-end earners or the average workers?
Yeah, listen, if you're an average worker, you can certainly benefit from it if you play it smart and you don't really have a lot of money invested in this stuff to start out with, right? I just think that the more money we see going now from 401ks especially into crypto, is just going to make more volatility, basically. So we're going to see just some sharp upswings and some very sharp drawdowns.
Back in May, the University System of Georgia Board of Regents approved mandating that all of its institutions post the syllabus of a course on their public websites. This means that courses publicly post syllabus must include a description of the course, any required readings, and key learning objectives. By fall of 2026, all courses must have a syllabus publicly posted by the time of registration. Some professors, however, say the new rule could leave them vulnerable to harassment and political targeting. Joining us now is Matthew Bodie, University of North Georgia Associate Professor of Rhetoric and Composition. He's also the conference president of the Georgia chapter of the American Association of University Professors. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
All right, educator, talk to me about this move by the Board of Regents.
Well, I think that this move certainly offers transparency to students and parents to know what classes they're taking and what would go on in that class. But I think the list of things you just made includes a list of readings. Students and parents get information on classes and the types of classes and the learning outcomes well before this. So they're really suggesting they want to make the list of readings public, and that's what worries me, because we've seen attacks upon higher education and faculty based upon the list of readings, whether individual people think they're inappropriate or people doing big data searches on the number of times a particular text is assigned. So the big data searches that could come from, hundreds of thousands of syllabi online is what worries me.
Yeah, some argue that some lawmakers argue that the faculty is overreacting about this. It's all about accountability, not harassment. How do you respond to that?
Well, again, if you want accountability, students and parents have had access to this information, and we could have put it behind a login. If you register for a class, you get the syllabus. If you're not registered for a class, you could see what's on it. All that could be done without public preview. And again, the university system is responding to these conservative lawmakers who want more information. Over the last several years, conservative lawmakers have asked for syllabi for different reasons, and they're welcome to do that. Yeah. If lawmakers want to hold us accountable, please do that. But we didn't need to do this in a broad public fashion.
They're framing this as transparency, but you're saying they have access. Why now? Why is this happening now?
Well, I think that we've seen a trend across the South of government officials, people who don't like higher education, attacking it in different ways, whether it is cutting tenure or telling us we can't teach certain materials or cutting classes altogether. This is another in the line of those things.
Yeah. In your view, what gets lost when transparency becomes exposed? Does that invite the harassment?
Well, again, I don't like to use the word weaponization, but this idea that transparency is the only thing that's going to happen because of this is false. Yes, I'm all for more transparency. If you want to come to my class, you're welcome to do that. If you want to see the list of readings that I'm assigning, you're welcome to do that. But transparency used in the fashion that it's being used now, in the culture that we live in, certainly has shown us bad effects already of people being harassed through email, people knowing where they're going to be. All these things are concerns I've heard from faculty.
If you had a chance to sit down with the Board of Regents or Chancellor Sonny Perdue, what would you ask them or talk to them about this particular situation?
Well, I say the Board of Regents, while they meet publicly, does not allow public comment at their meetings, and I have tried in the past to talk with them, and they're not open to that. Certainly, the Chancellor has met with faculty on a regular basis. We have a group of statewide faculty that meet with him once a semester, and if he's heard our concerns about this, if I were to have him in the room right now, I would just suggest, again, there are ways to do this, ways to be transparent with students and parents. If that's the motivation they're saying they're using, there's ways to do this behind a login that doesn't allow public access.
The DeKalb County School Board approved a $1.6 million plan to install vape detectors in every high school across the district. The detectors will be placed in locker rooms and restroom areas where identified as hot spots. This follows last month's move by Marietta City Schools to install vape sensors in middle schools and high school, as well as the Woods Wilkins campus. With us now to explain more on this is Ryan Schroeder. He's the Vice President of Sensor Solutions at Motorola Solutions. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Chesley. Thanks for having me on. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Let's start with how a vape detector works.
All right, so a vape detector works by monitoring the air quality, and with our vape sensors out there, when somebody exhales the vape from a vape device, we're able to pick up the particles in the air and detect that, and send alerts out to either the school resource officer, to the superintendent, to the principal, whoever we decide that you need to notify that somebody may be vaping inside a restroom.
Does it know the difference between, like when you say smoke particles, right? Let's say it's picking up nicotine or it's picking up maybe a fog from a deodorant spray can. Does it know the difference in that?
Great question. Absolutely, it does. So our sensors have, multiple sensors built into the Halo Smart Sensor. And we're able to go ahead and detect whether it's an aerosol. We consider that masking. That's became a problem across the schools out there. where the children believe they can go inside the restroom, vape, and then cover it up with, say, hairspray or Axe body spray, and that will alert that somebody's using some sort of aerosol to cover up. We should still go ahead and receive that vape is also detected in the area, so we'll be able to receive 2 different alerts. That's what's going on to draw attention over to that restroom.
Yeah. So what happens when a student vapes? Does a sensor go off, or is it like a silent alarm that's alerted? How does that work?
You have your options there. It could set off a audible alarm. It could set off a silent alarm, or I have the device here behind me over my shoulder. I could also do a visual alarm, blink various colors, depending on how the school district would like to go ahead and deploy that.
You've been talking to school leaders. What's the #1 reason why they're saying they need this technology?
Vaping, we go back a decade, this wasn't even a conversation. Over the last few years, this, continues to be a epidemic across schools. That's what information we're receiving back from the school districts out there. When the students are picking up vaping, they're developing a nicotine addiction, and, they're skipping class. They're trying to find a place where they can't be found, and it's taking away from their learning. We've also found over the last few years that we continue to deploy these. There's so much more use that these vape sensors can go ahead and offer the school districts and businesses outside of schools. I mentioned earlier, we have several different types of sensors built into the vape Halo Smart Sensor. And some of the things that we can pick up on is, aggression, duress words, occupancy, too many people in the restroom. We can set up keywords where, students or staff can, be taught some of those keywords and announce them and go ahead and send off a silent alarm back to school administration or, the local school resource officer that is on site.
Yeah, with all technology, things evolve. How do you see this evolving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Over the next 3 to 5 years, I expect this to continue to grow. This started out, really dealing with the epidemic around vaping and kids in middle school and high school. But some of our largest school districts out there are now, deploying these across the entire school district, almost, in every single room to monitor air quality as well. So originally we were just looking for, the vaping, the nicotine, THC, but some of the largest school districts across the U.S. are now deploying these in almost every single room to be able to, initiate some sort of a panic alert, as well as, monitor air quality. We talked earlier about the aerosols, the fragrances, everybody spraying stuff inside, or if we go look, up at our northern border, Canadian wildfires, that smoke coming down. Poor air quality could lead to, again, distractions and education for, young children out there.
Gotcha, right.
So as more and more, schools pick up on this, I think it's, beyond, protecting vape. It's just going to better the education environment for our children across America.
The issue of how we cast our ballots is back in the headlines. This week, President Trump pledged to end mail-in voting in the nation, aiming, he says, to restore honesty to elections ahead of next year's midterms. During his Oval Office meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky, he repeated a series of false claims he made on social media earlier in the day.
We, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt. And that we're the only country in the world, I believe, I may be wrong, but just about the only country in the world that uses them because of what's happened. Massive fraud all over the place.
All right, correcting the president here, a count conducted by, this was conducted last year by the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, found that 34 countries use mail-in voting, including Canada, Denmark, and Germany. Yesterday, 11Alive received a statement from the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger's office, responding to the president's claims, saying Georgia's election security remains the gold standard. Photo ID for all forms of voting Our system works for Georgia voters. That's why Fox News, CNN, Heritage, and the Bipartisan Policy Center gives us top marks. Let's expand our discussion on this now. Let's bring in Lauren Grow, a CEO of the Fair Fight Action. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me.
Lauren, when you hear the President of the United States talk about eliminating mail-in ballots altogether, what's your reaction on that?
Well, first of all, folks should think about the president's executive order strategy more like a press release strategy. These are his hopes and dreams and wishes. The president does not have control over how states run elections. He would like to have that control. I think it's pretty evident that Vladimir Putin was on American soil on Sunday, and they were publicly talking about trying to change election laws in our country. So we're calling this the Putin executive order, where in Russia, you don't have to have elections to know what the outcome is going to be. And I think Trump certainly is looking up to Putin in this regard. We have long expected this executive order around mail ballots, and we expect it to have a lot of other voter restrictions. But the president cannot unilaterally change how elections are run. So just like many of his other executive orders, we expect that to be partially or fully blocked in court. That doesn't mean this is not unbelievably dangerous rhetoric. Mail ballots are used by Republicans and Democrats in Georgia and across the country every year to safely cast their ballot. This is disinformation and lies, and it really is a bullying, intimidation tactic to try to force states to do what he wants. That's how we see this.
Yeah. Why do you think mail-in ballots is such a political flashpoint? I mean, you said both Republicans and Democrats use this. We've been using it for years now without controversy. Why is this such a flashpoint?
Well, what happened in 2020 is reminding everybody to put yourself back in those days. That was during COVID, and mail ballots were used more than ever before. And it was an election where Democrats voted for President Biden using mail ballots more than ever before. So we saw a spike in Democratic use of that vote method. And then Trump and the MAGA team started to make that vote method a partisan vote method. It's not a partisan vote method. In fact, it was Georgia Republicans who brought us mail voting here in Georgia and in many states. But because the 2020 margin was so close, you cannot understand this rhetoric of his without understanding him and his people's attempt to overturn the 2020 election. That is inherently tied to this disinformation and lies about mail voting because of huge Democratic use to put Joe Biden over the top in 2020. So we're here now in 2025, essentially relitigating that. And we've seen that here locally. You have the state election board in Georgia, the MAGA wing of it, asking the Trump operation to take another look at Fulton County 2020 results. There were many mail ballots. So as this Trump operation has come back into power, they are bringing back all of these lies again and really trying to force feed American election system, frankly, into a more autocratic model. That's why we're hearing his inspiration around the visit with Putin. It's not going to work. We and others are going to fight back. I have absolute certainty that he's going to end up in court over this executive order. But again, we take this very seriously because here we are today talking about it, right? Yeah. He's raising questions, raising disinformation about mail voting. And so this is not going to be a normal midterm. Look at the power grab they're trying to do in redrawing lines and taking Congress into one-party rule. They are throwing the kitchen sink at our entire electoral system to try to remake it in a Trump MAGA model.
Yeah, this comes on the eve of Georgia's deadline to get folks to check their voting status before potentially being purged from the voting rolls. How does the president's actions play in trying to trim back who's allowed to vote?
They're inextricably linked. The lie around mail voting is also connected to their lie around voter fraud. Everybody, I'm sure, watching this remembers how Trump was saying both in 2016 and 2020. Remember his claims that millions of illegal immigrants were voting, which is inaccurate, right? There's been tons of audits, including in Georgia, that there is insignificant to be meaningless voter fraud. But their fundamental lie is that there's unclean voter rolls, and because of that, the vote methods are compromised in some way. And so that connects to these aggressive purges. There was a congressional hearing a couple of weeks ago about the voter rolls, led by a bunch of MAGA conspiracy theorists. So this is all part and parcel of the same argument, which at the base is that there's huge amounts of voter fraud, false, and that certain voting methods, mail voting, early voting, are fraudulent, false, towards this push to get really, really strict, documentary, expensive government IDs to be able to register to vote. They'd like to change those laws. There's a bill in Congress on that. And then to change voting methods. And their big push ultimately is to try to get everybody down to election day voting only, and then also change the rules on counting. They have an entire agenda. It's public. It's connected to Project 2025, which I'm now calling the Putin Project, because clearly this is also Putin's agenda for our country. But everybody should rest assured the president cannot change our laws, but we need everybody to get active. Check your voter registration status. Tell your friends and family to make sure that they're aware and registered and able to vote. Volunteer as a poll worker in your community. Democracy is not a spectator sport. And with this kind of dangerous rhetoric, it's going to take all of us to really ensure our elections.
Well, you got to wash your hands. That's quite understandable. You should be doing that, right? Recent studies show after the pandemic, majority of Americans wash their hands typically 6 to 9 times a day. The CDC strongly suggests using soap and water when it's available, but does state that alcohol-based sanitizers are acceptable as an alternative. Now, researchers at UGA may have a breakthrough, a long-lasting gel that kills tough germs better than that alcohol-based sanitizer. With us now is Elizabeth Brisbois, an associate professor at UGA's College of Engineering. Welcome to the show, Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning.
All right. First of all, what sparked your team to dive into this hand sanitizer thing?
Well, just like you were talking about, in general, the society now has a lot of heightened awareness related to health and trying to avoid spread of infectious diseases. Also related to that, more specifically in the healthcare setting, there's a lot of emphasis right now on trying to reduce rates of hospital-acquired infections, reduce medical device-related infections, and also come up with new technologies that can help us fight this battle against antibiotic resistance. And so a lot of that awareness just kind of inspired us to try to think of new ways that we can use some of the technologies that we're developing in our lab to help avoid those infection-related issues.
All right, in plain terms, how does the gel actually work?
Yeah, so the hand sanitizer gel that we developed kind of has two major differences between the traditional ones that you might find on the market. The first difference is related to the technology that we developed. So our technology in the hand sanitizer uses a small molecule called nitric oxide. And this nitric oxide molecule is really important because it's actually a molecule that our body and our immune system produces to fight infections. And so what we wanted to do is take those really positive benefits that our body uses and incorporate that nitric oxide molecule into our hand sanitizer. Of course, our hand sanitizer also has several other ingredients that are commonly used in other traditional hand sanitizers. The main ones being ethanol, which is a really good agent to kill different bacteria and virus species. We also incorporated tea tree oil, which is an essential oil used in many products to also provide antimicrobial activity. And then the last major ingredient was glycerin, because a lot of these alcohol-based ingredients can be very drying to the skin, and so the glycerin can be added to help avoid that drying side effect and provide moisture.
Gotcha. Do you see this as a complement to traditional soap and water, or possibly a replacement to that?
I think there's no replacement, no complete replacement for, washing your hands, but I think the hand sanitizers are a great alternative because you can take them with you wherever you're going. They're readily available, so there's a lot of benefits from that perspective.
One of the criticisms of hand sanitizer was that you're not really wiping off the germs, just kind of, wiping them around, that kind of thing. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard of that, and I would say that's kind of one of the advantages of our hand sanitizer is that traditional hand sanitizers like the alcohols, they have this really short-term effect, so they'll kill the bacteria right when you apply that hand sanitizer. But the nitric oxide-based hand sanitizer that we developed has a longer-term effect, which is really exciting. So one of the experiments that we did is we applied hand sanitizer to skin, let it sit for 2 hours, and then tested how well it killed bacteria after that 2-hour period. and we found that our nitric oxide-based hand sanitizer, after 2 hours from that initial application, killed 90% more bacteria than traditional hand sanitizer.
Wow. My wife is a nurse. You know, those in the health field, they use hand sanitizer all the time. She's always talking about how it dries out her skin, that kind of thing. Is this more of a game changer for them or for all of us?
I think it has potential everywhere. I mean, certainly there's a lot of benefits in a healthcare setting because you're trying to be more careful around those patients who are, addressing or facing different health issues. But even everyday people could benefit from this technology.
Oh yeah, I'd use it. I'd try it at least. What's the timeline for getting this product out of the lab and into the hands of customers?
Yeah, so I hope it's soon, but to be honest with you, it probably will take a few more years. Part of that is related to the fact that we need to do some additional testing. So the study that we completed and recently published shows, the potential for this new technology, and we showed that it could kill a couple of bacteria strains that are really common. But some of that additional research is going to be related to doing additional testing against more bacteria that are common and also viruses, because we haven't explored that yet.
Yeah.
And then there's also a lot of additional testing required by the FDA as well. So we'll need a few more years to complete all of those studies. But I would say that we've done our best to set ourselves up for success in that direction. We filed patents to protect this technology, and we also have a startup company that's kind of leading all the efforts in this commercialization direction.
Elizabeth, you got a name for it yet?
Not a specific name, although in the paper we called it NOREL, which kind of stands for nitric oxide release. So that's kind of a name we commonly refer to it as so far.
That may stick. That may stick. I like it a lot. College students are reporting mental health struggles at startlingly high rates. Yet, many still face barriers in getting help. A report from United Healthcare found roughly 2/3 of college students this year reported experiencing a mental or behavioral health concern. Nearly 9 in 10 students with suicidal thoughts had doubts that they'd graduate on time, compared to just 30% of students without mental health concerns. And slightly more than a third, 38% of students said cost was the biggest barrier to getting healthcare results from this. Here to examine what's behind this crisis is Mimi Hartker. She's the Chief Medical Officer of United Healthcare. Welcome to the show, Mimi.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, we have those numbers right there. Nearly 2/3 of college students reporting some kind of health, struggle, mental health struggle. What does that tell you about the state of young people well-being today?
Yeah, interestingly enough, the issues are the same as when you were probably going into college and when I was going into college, right? Academic stress, life transitions, first time you're independent. But what is a little bit more concerning is things have gotten more serious. If you are diagnosed with a mental health issue, or if you have one, it tends to be a little bit worse, right? So eating disorders, substance abuse, suicide. And what we have discovered is that if you have conversations as a parent with your teen, you can actually mitigate some of those outcomes and get better outcomes.
Yeah, it feels new to me, right? Would you say this is kind of a generational shift, or has it always been there even when we were younger, but it's been hidden?
Correct. I think it's just more prevalent, and it's actually coming out a little bit more. I think it's being stressed, especially since we've acquired iPhones, and people are social media is coming to the forefront. So I think it is being seen more often than before.
Yeah. Maybe do you think students are feeling like they should be able to handle it on their own?
Yeah, and that's probably not the optimal way to handle things. I mean, really looking for a good support system is, I would say, 100% of what will help combat against some of these issues that come up when you are in college. Having regular conversations with a good friend. I mean, college is the best time to meet, people who are going to be similar to you or just like you. 50% of students have self-reported that when they've talked to friends, they will actually seek behavioral health help. So that's a really good positive. If you are a friend, to reach out and say to someone, how are you really doing? I think we don't often remember to ask that in a way that's not superficial, but that can actually help save somebody, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, if you're a parent, the best advice I got when my son went to college was to go and visit him once a month. Now, he lived far enough away that that was not possible, but I did try and go out there every 6 weeks. But even having regular phone calls with your child when they're in college can help, because you're a touch point for them. And then, you know, things like exercise. If you are somebody of faith, to go to church. Really important to establish those habits. Exercise can help combat depression and anxiety, which we're seeing a lot more of. And then, you know, probably about half of the college kids are still on their parents' health insurance. So at least for United Healthcare, I can't speak for other health insurances, but I'm sure they have something similar. We have apps, digital apps, for example, the Calm app, which you can use to, it sounds like what it is, help calm yourself. They have meditation and things like that. And we also have behavioral coaching, right? We have zero copays for virtual counseling. So even if you live far away from somebody who can be, you know, a behavioral health resource, you have that option.
A New York woman says she caught her wax specialist wearing Meta camera eyewear glasses during a Brazilian wax session. Now, this raises some disturbing questions about consent and privacy spaces. Back with us today is business professor Rajiv Garg. He is joining us now to talk about this particular situation. And Rajiv, I got to tell you, man, this is troubling to say the least. Let's start off with these glasses themselves. How do the glasses work, and how do you know which ones are those type of glasses?
So these glasses, essentially you can tell the glass to record any session, or you can just tap on the side to record any session. The easiest way is, so currently these glasses were manufactured by Ray-Ban. So if you see Ray-Ban glasses, which are the side stem with a small camera in the front, you know, these are the Meta glasses that have the recording capabilities. Facebook is coming out with the new ones, Oakley, again, very common brand. So now, in addition to Ray-Ban, you could see the Oakley glasses with a small camera in the front to know that these are recording devices.
So you heard the situation here. You have a woman who goes to her wax specialist, catches them wearing those Meta glasses. I mean, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, it's crazy. I would be, I mean, if the service provider was actually recording, they are in for a major lawsuit, and it's actually recording without consent is both a civil and a criminal offense. The customer could potentially file a police report saying that she was recorded without her consent, and she can actually file a lawsuit as well. These cameras are becoming more common because they're very accessible technology. I mean, a lot of the eye class, like the prescription eye glass or sunglass shops, like lens crafters, even I think Sam's Club, they sell these glasses. So when people are going to buy frames, they see, look, I have an AI embedded in my glasses, which can take pictures when I want. Let me buy it. And then they get a habit of wearing it at all times.
Yeah. Do you know where the law sits here in Georgia on this issue?
So in Georgia, again, so recording audio is legal. Like if it's a one-party consent. So if this was a conversation they were happening, that was happening, and she recorded just the audio, then it's fine. But in Georgia, if she recorded video without the consent, then it's both the civil and criminal offense. The one challenge that I see is people or businesses, when you enter the business, like a spa or massage parlor or a doctor's office, they give you this long form with all the different print. And one of the clauses there typically written is, I mean, if they are recording, they will say, we may be recording your session for training purposes and et cetera, et cetera. And then you're signing it, you're giving that consent at that time. So then it becomes harder to actually sue the organization that you recorded, but you actually signed the document. So it's always good to read what you are signing and if there is a clause for recording. One other practice some businesses follow is they will put a note on the wall or door somewhere. By entering premises, you are consenting to being recorded, or you're in camera, smile, or being recorded, something of that sort. Now, when a person enters and they see and then they still go through, they're it's a soft consent, although it typically won't hold in the court. But I mean, this is how businesses are trying to get that consent that we are recording you.
I guess we're living in a world now where cameras are everywhere, even in the places we think are private. You know, landing a job is just not an easy thing to accomplish, especially for those who spent time in prison. But one program is turning a no into an opportunity and helping people get a fresh start. Joining us now is Patience Lewis Walker, Deputy Executive Director for the Center for Employment Opportunities here in Atlanta. Patience, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much.
All right. When you meet someone who just walked out of prison, they come into your program, what's the very first thing you want them to feel?
The very first thing that we want is to make sure that they know they're supported. I think we often underestimate the difficulties that folks have returning home from incarceration. There is so much stigma, there is little support, it's difficult to get housing, employment, all of those things that are just necessary for individuals to survive just become difficult when you add on, this other level of incarceration as a barrier for just success. And so one of the most important things we do is just want to make sure that folks are stabilized. They come into our office, we, get to know them, learn what their goals are, and really try, to work with them to forge a path for them to, get the training that they need to be successful, become employed. We connect them immediately to employment so that they can have cash in their pocket to be able to meet some of their immediate needs, and then figure out a plan of action for them long-term to sustain, whether that's advanced training or, a job, a more full-time permanent job with one of our community partners. That's kind of where we are with when individuals first walk through our doors, really just stabilization, creating an environment that's welcoming, safe, and really stabilizing and helping folks to just get ready to work.
Talk to us about why that paid work, especially those first few weeks after release, is so important.
Yeah, when we think about individuals leaving prison, we know that they just don't have a lot. Oftentimes, individuals, may or may not have, strong family relationships. I mentioned the stigma earlier that happens, housing, food, so many things are, not accessible or available. Even something as simple as having a cell phone, right? Or even knowing how to use a cell phone if they've been incarcerated for an extended amount of time. And so for us, it's really important that we're able to meet that immediate need for, whatever it is, whether it's, again, food security, housing, shelter, and, to take care of themselves and their family. So our model is really designed to, in that first 90 days of release, to provide that stability, because we know without it, individuals are more likely to recidivate just out of desperation in a lot of instances.
Yeah. I'm guessing employers are still a little hesitant about hiring people with a record. How do you change their minds?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really, really interesting in that vein is that when we look at small businesses and local business owners in a city like Atlanta, we do have some success with individuals understanding and working with our participants. Our participants come to us with just a variety of skill sets. They come to us with a desire to work and succeed and achieve. They have a lot to prove. And so what you'll find are people who are super reliable, eager to work, eager to do a really great job, highly skilled in a lot of instances, and in some areas we're still developing and building skills. But this is an untapped work source and funnel of individuals for employers. So we understand that oftentimes there is the stigma, but with, once we have individuals who are learning and, learning about our work, learning how we're supporting our participants, they work for CEO first. And so while they're working on one of our transitional work crews, they have an opportunity to, really build that muscle and those skills, right? And so they learn the importance of showing up on time, and they understand how to have difficult conversations with their coworkers and work as a team and take instruction from their manager or supervisor. So these are all skills that we're building, for just a group of folks to make sure that they're ready to succeed in the workforce.
Yeah, you talk about succeeding, and I got 30 seconds left here. How do you measure success beyond just the job placement?
Yeah, for us, it's the job placement. It's not just the job placement because, depending on the economy, a lot of folks can get a job. It's really retaining and keeping that job and advancement. One of the things that we've been focusing on the last year and a half or so is upskilling our participants, right? And so we're creating opportunities for them to get advanced training credentials like commercial driver's license, different certifications in the construction trade. And so really what we're thinking about is how do we create longer term opportunities, an extended career pathway, and economic and social mobility for for individuals who are returning home and their families, and basically the whole community.
We have cell phones, we got AI, we got driverless cars, and now there's a company, trying to create the world's first gestation robot. That's right, you heard me. A company in China that is close to finishing a humanoid-designed robot with an artificial womb embedded in the abdomen that's meant to carry a fetus for 10 months and then deliver a baby. The robot is slated to be debuted in 2026 and sell roughly for $14,000. The robot bill will be geared toward those wishing to have a child but don't want to go through the physical and emotional barriers that it takes for conception, right? It's difficult, right? The news has sparked a lot of debate in Chinese social media, with many opposing the concept, of course, but some just curious, asking, where did the eggs come from? And then there's some who support it by saying it's good that women don't have to suffer anymore. A baby born by a robot, certainly not my choice, not my first choice anyway. We got driverless cars, that brings me pause. But now, this scares me. What kind of society are we creating when we abandon things that taste naturally? Why can't we do it the natural way? Everything, folks, is becoming artificial. But you can rest assured that I'm real. That's all we got for you today, folks. Make it a great day and try to encourage someone while you're doing it along the way.